The vast emptiness of space was broken by silver ships moving like predators through the darkness. The Vexen Empire had conquered 12 star systems, and their warships carried fear wherever they went. Admiral Rex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his screen show a small blue planet spinning around a yellow star. "Just another backward world," Rex said to his officers. His scans showed the planet had basic technology, radio waves and primitive rockets. Nothing that could threaten the mighty Vexen fleet. These creatures probably still fight with metal weapons. But then something unexpected happened. A message came through space, spoken in perfect galactic standard, the language used by all advanced civilizations. The voice was calm and clear. "This is Earth. We extend one warning: humanity are deadly when threatened. Approach with peaceful intentions only." Rex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his command center. "Listen to that. These primitives think they can warn us." His officers joined in the laughter. They had heard such empty threats from dozens of worlds before crushing them. Far away, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Do-hyun Kim watched the alien ships through his sensors. His command station was built inside a large asteroid, completely invisible to the approaching fleet. Do-hyun had spent years preparing for this moment. His name meant virtuous path, and he believed in following the right course of action. "Sir, they're not answering our warning," said Lieutenant Haun Park from her communication station. Her name meant great kindness, but her voice was hard as steel. She had family on Earth and she would protect them at any cost. Do-hyun nodded quietly. He had expected this. Most aggressive alien species ignored warnings from worlds they thought were weak. "Send the message to all defense stations. Tell them the visitors chose the hard way." On the Vexen flagship, Rex was already giving orders. "Deploy 3 destroyers. Hit their orbital stations hard. Show these humans what happens when they threaten the Vexen Empire." The 3 warships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward Earth's moon. Their weapons were charged and ready. Rex expected to see the humans beg for mercy within minutes. But Commander Jiwoo Lee, stationed on Earth's primary defense platform, was ready for them. His name combined wisdom and universe, and he had used both to prepare Earth's defenses. He watched the enemy ships approach and smiled grimly. "All stations implement Protocol 7, he commanded. "Show them what Earth's children learned in 10,000 years of warfare." Suddenly the empty space around Earth's moon came alive. What the aliens thought was barren rock revealed itself as something far more dangerous. Hidden weapon platforms emerged from craters and caves. Railgun batteries that had been invisible moments before swiveled toward the approaching destroyers. The first Vexen ship never knew what hit it. A tungsten rod fired at nearly the speed of light punched through its shields like they weren't there. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The second ship managed to raise emergency shields, but it was too late. Multiple railgun shots tore through its hull, and it spun helplessly before exploding. The third destroyer tried to escape, but invisible mines suddenly appeared around it. The quantum explosives had been waiting in space, hidden from all sensors. The ship vanished in a ball of fire. Admiral Rex stared at his tactical screen in shock. 3 of his best ships had been destroyed in less than 30 seconds. How is this possible? Our scans showed no advanced weapons. On Earth, Do-hyun Kim allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had been watching alien probes for decades, learning their technology and preparing countermeasures. Every piece of space junk around Earth, every small asteroid, every communication satellite had been weaponized in secret. "Phase 2, he ordered into his communicator. From behind Mars a new threat emerged. Dozens of small human ships appeared, their hulls black as space itself. These stealth fighters had been waiting, completely invisible to Vexen sensors. They moved with deadly grace toward the main alien fleet. The humans had learned something important from thousands of years of war on Earth. Sometimes the best defense was a devastating attack. The stealth ships launched missiles that could think for themselves, finding weak points in alien shields and exploiting them. Rex watched in horror as his formation began to fall apart. Ship after ship reported damage from weapons they couldn't see. His mighty fleet, which had conquered worlds, was being torn apart by creatures he had dismissed as primitives. "Retreat. All ships retreat to the jump point," Rex shouted. But the humans weren't finished. As the Vexen ships tried to escape, more weapons revealed themselves. Jupiter's moons opened up like flowers, showing massive energy cannons inside. Even the gas giant itself became a weapon, its core converted into a planet-sized railgun that fired chunks of metal the size of buildings. By the time the surviving Vexen ships reached safety, Rex had lost half his fleet. He stared at the tactical display trying to understand what had happened. These humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress, and they had done it so cleverly that his advanced sensors never detected it. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving another message from Earth." The same calm voice spoke across space. "You were warned. Next time choose peace." Rex realized with growing dread that Earth had just given the Vexen Empire a lesson in warfare that they would never forget. These humans were not primitives at all. They were something far more dangerous, a species that had spent millennia learning how to kill, and they were very, very good at it. The three Vexen destroyers moved through space like hungry sharks approaching their prey. Their target was Earth's moon, where human research stations sat like tiny dots on the gray surface. The alien crews expected an easy victory. A few energy blasts would destroy the stations and show these primitive humans who ruled space. Captain Zek commanded the lead destroyer. He had destroyed countless worlds and felt no emotion as he prepared to add Earth's moon to his list. "Target the largest station first," he told his weapons officer. "Then we'll work our way down to the smaller ones." But as the three ships closed in on the moon, something impossible happened. The barren lunar surface began to change. What looked like simple rock formations suddenly split open like mechanical flowers. Hidden doors slid away to reveal massive weapons that had been waiting in silence. Captain Minjun Choi watched from his command center buried deep inside the moon itself. His name meant handsome and talented, and he had used both qualities to design Earth's secret defenses. For 20 years, humans had been hollowing out the moon and filling it with weapons while alien probes watched from space, seeing nothing but innocent research stations. "All batteries prepare to fire," Minjun said calmly into his headset. Around him, dozens of officers sat at control stations, their fingers hovering over weapon controls. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. The first Vexen destroyer was still turning toward what it thought was a helpless research station when Minjun gave the order that changed everything. "Fire." The moon erupted with deadly light. Rail guns that had been hidden for decades opened up with tungsten rods fired at incredible speed. The metal projectiles moved so fast they glowed white-hot as they cut through space. Captain Zek had 1 second to see death approaching before his ship disappeared. The tungsten rod hit his destroyer with the force of a nuclear bomb, turning the mighty warship into expanding gas and twisted metal. His crew never knew what killed them. The second destroyer's captain managed to raise emergency shields just before the railgun rounds reached him. For a moment he thought he might survive. Then 3 more tungsten rods, each moving at nearly the speed of light, punched through his shields like they were made of paper. His ship broke apart in a shower of sparks and flame. The third captain was smarter and tried to run immediately. His engines roared to life as he turned away from the moon, but he was already trapped. Invisible mines had been floating in space around his ship for the last 10 minutes, quantum weapons so advanced that even Vexen sensors couldn't detect them. The mines exploded all at once, creating a web of deadly energy that tore the fleeing destroyer into pieces. In less than 30 seconds, 3 of the Vexen Empire's best warships had been completely destroyed. Admiral Rex stood on his flagship's bridge, staring at his tactical screen in total shock. The 3 green dots representing his destroyers had simply vanished. "Report," he screamed at his sensor officer. "Sir, all 3 ships are gone. Complete destruction. I'm reading massive energy signatures from the moon itself." Rex felt cold fear creeping up his spine. How did they hide weapons that powerful? "Our probes have been watching this system for years." On Earth, General Eugene Nam observed the battle from her command center in Seoul. Her name meant precious truth, and the truth was that humanity had been preparing for alien contact since they first developed space travel. Every probe that visited their system had been secretly captured, studied, and reverse-engineered. "Excellent work, Minjun," she said into her communicator. "Now show them Phase 2. Commander Taeho Park, initiate Phase 2, she ordered. Commander Park's name meant great and heroic, and he had earned both titles fighting space pirates in the outer solar system. His squadron of stealth ships had been hiding in the shadow of Mars for 3 days, waiting for this moment. "Hunter squadrons, you are free to engage," Park said quietly. From behind the red planet, 36 human ships appeared like ghosts materializing from nothing. They were smaller than the Vexen vessels but moved with deadly grace. Their black hulls absorbed sensor beams, making them nearly invisible against the darkness of space. The remaining Vexen ships had been moving toward Earth, confident in their superior numbers. Suddenly they found themselves under attack from weapons they couldn't see. Human missiles struck their shields with precision, finding weak points that shouldn't have existed. How do they know where our vulnerable spots are? One Vexen captain asked in panic. The answer was simple but terrifying. Humanity had been studying captured alien technology for decades. They knew every weakness in Vexen ship design, every flaw in their defensive systems. The humans fought like they could see the future. Admiral Rex watched his formation fall apart as ship after ship reported critical damage. These weren't primitive creatures throwing rocks at advanced technology. These were skilled warriors who had turned war into an art form. All ships retreat to the jump point. Rex ordered. Emergency hyperspace jump. But the humans weren't finished teaching their lesson. As the Vexen fleet tried to escape, more surprises revealed themselves. Asteroids that had seemed empty suddenly fired hidden weapons. Space stations that looked abandoned came to life with deadly purpose. Commander Park's stealth ships hunted the retreating aliens like wolves chasing deer. His pilots had trained their entire lives for this battle, and they showed no mercy. Vexen ships that had terrorized dozens of worlds now ran in fear from Earth's children. By the time the surviving Vexen vessels reached safety and jumped away, Admiral Rex had lost more than half his fleet. He sat in his command chair, shaking with rage and fear. The humans had given him a demonstration he would never forget. Earth wasn't a helpless target waiting to be conquered. It was a fortress defended by the most dangerous species he had ever encountered. Admiral Rex stood in the grand throne room of the Vexen homeworld, his uniform torn and his pride shattered. Before him sat Overlord Vex, the supreme ruler of an empire that had never known defeat. The Overlord's 4 eyes glowed red with rage as Rex finished his report. You lost half your fleet to primitives? Vex's voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. Creatures that still use chemical rockets? Rex kept his head down. My lord, they were not what they seemed. Their entire solar system was a trap. Weapons hidden everywhere, technology we didn't know they possessed. Vex rose from his throne, his massive form towering over the defeated admiral. Then we will show them what real power looks like. Deploy Battle Fleet Prime. 300 ships. Enough firepower to crack planets in half. The order went out across the Vexen Empire. From a dozen worlds, the mightiest warships ever built began moving toward Earth. Dreadnoughts the size of cities, their hulls bristling with weapons that could melt mountains. Carrier ships launched swarms of fighters like angry insects. Destroyer squadrons that had burned entire civilizations formed into attack formations. When the massive fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth, it blocked out the stars. The combined firepower was enough to destroy 100 worlds. Overlord Vex himself commanded from the flagship Inevitable Victory, a ship so large it had its own gravity. On Earth's orbital fortress Defiant Hope, Admiral Su Bin Lee studied the approaching armada. Her name meant excellent and refined, and at 35 she was the youngest admiral in Earth fleet history. She had earned her rank by thinking differently than everyone else. 300 ships, her tactical officer reported, his voice shaking slightly. Energy signatures beyond anything we've seen before. Su Bin nodded calmly. She had expected this. When you hurt a bully, they always came back with bigger friends. They want to play by the old rules, she said quietly. Overwhelming force, brute strength, crush the enemy with superior numbers. She touched a control panel, opening a channel to every human commander in the solar system. All stations, all ships, all defensive platforms. Execute Pandora's box. Show them how Earth fights total war. Across the solar system, humanity's true preparations revealed themselves. What the aliens saw was not a single planet's defense, but an entire star system converted into the largest fortress ever built. Mars, the red planet, suddenly came alive. Its surface split open like a hatching egg, revealing massive launch bays underneath. Millions of self-replicating combat drones poured out like a metallic river, each one small but carrying enough firepower to destroy a fighter. They moved in perfect coordination, controlled by artificial intelligence that could think faster than any biological mind. Jupiter's 4 largest moons transformed before the aliens' eyes. Io opened up to reveal particle beam arrays that could cut through asteroids like butter. Europa's ice cracked away to show weapons that fired concentrated energy beams. Ganymede and Callisto became launching platforms for missiles that could track targets across millions of miles. But the greatest surprise was Jupiter itself. The massive gas giant had been secretly mined for decades. Humans had built a railgun inside the planet using Jupiter's own metallic core, turning the entire world into a weapon that could fire chunks of metal the size of buildings at near light speed. Captain Hyunwoo Kim led the first strike wing, 50 of humanity's best pilots in their fastest ships. His name meant virtuous and heroic, and he would prove both qualities in the coming battle. His fighters were small compared to the alien dreadnoughts, but they moved like dancers through space. "Remember your training?" Hyun-woo told his pilots over the radio. "We know their weak points. Hit fast, hit hard, and get out alive." The human fighters dove into the alien formation like hawks attacking a flock of sheep. Their artificial intelligence systems, developed over decades of secret research, found tiny flaws in alien shields that even the aliens didn't know existed. Missiles struck with surgical precision, causing massive ships to explode from the inside out. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For 18 hours, space around Earth burned with the light of 1,000 suns. Human ships, outnumbered 10-1, fought with desperate courage and brilliant tactics. They used the asteroids as cover, the planets as weapons, and their own advanced technology as force multipliers. The aliens had superior firepower, but humans had superior knowledge. Every alien weapon had been studied from captured technology. Every alien tactical move had been predicted by human strategists. Earth's children fought like they could see the future. Overlord Vex watched his mighty fleet being torn apart and couldn't understand how it was happening. "They're just one primitive world," he roared. "How can they fight like this?" The answer came in the form of Jupiter's railgun firing for the first time. A chunk of metallic hydrogen the size of a city block struck his flagship at nearly the speed of light. The inevitable victory, pride of the Vexan Empire, broke in half and exploded in a burst of light visible from Earth. When the battle finally ended, space was filled with the wreckage of both fleets. Humanity had lost 40% of their ships and thousands of their best warriors. But the Vexan Empire had lost 80% of Battle Fleet Prime, including their supreme overlord. Admiral Subin Lee looked out at the debris field and felt no joy in victory. War was never something to celebrate. But Earth's children had learned an important lesson from their long history of conflict. Sometimes you had to fight to earn peace. The surviving Vexan ships limped away, carrying news that would change the galaxy forever. Earth was not a target to be conquered. It was a fortress defended by the most dangerous warriors the universe had ever seen. Major Sujin Park floated in the command chair of her stealth ship Shadow Walker, studying holographic star maps that glowed blue in the darkness. Her name meant excellent jewel, and Earth Command considered her exactly that, their most valuable weapon in the war against the Vexan Empire. Sujin had spent 5 years learning alien technology, taking apart captured Vexan ships piece by piece until she understood them better than their own builders. Now she flew a ship that was part human engineering and part alien science, invisible to enemy sensors and faster than anything in Vexan space. "Target confirmed," she whispered into her communicator. "Vexan Supply Depot at Kepler 442. Scans show military supplies only. No civilian populations detected." The voice of Admiral Chen crackled back from Earth, 20 light-years away. "You are authorized to proceed, Shadow Walker. Make it clean." Sujin smiled coldly. Clean was her specialty. She had learned that the best way to win a war was not to destroy everything, but to destroy exactly the right things. The Vexan Supply Depot contained fuel, ammunition, and spare parts for their remaining fleets. Without it, their ships would be stranded. The hunt had begun 3 months ago, after the Great Battle near Earth. Instead of waiting for the aliens to rebuild their forces and attack again, humanity had chosen a different path. They would take the war to the enemy. Human ships now appeared throughout Vexan space like ghosts seeking revenge. They struck military targets with surgical precision, destroyed key installations, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens called them shadow demons, and feared them more than entire fleets. 2 star systems away, Commander Jae-min Yoon prepared for a very different kind of mission. His name meant talented people, and he had gathered the most talented soldiers in human space for this operation. They were not here to destroy but to teach. The Vexan Military Academy on Rigel 4 trained the Empire's future officers. It was heavily defended, surrounded by energy shields and guard towers. But Jaemin had studied the base for weeks, learning the patterns of the guards, the timing of their patrols, the weaknesses in their security. "Remember," he told his team as they prepared to infiltrate, "we're not here to kill unless we have no choice. We're here to deliver a message." The team moved through the night like shadows, their advanced camouflage suits bending light around them. They slipped past guards who never knew they were there, through sensor fields that couldn't detect their presence, into the heart of the Academy's computer systems. Jaemin connected his portable computer to the alien network and began uploading terabytes of information. Not viruses or sabotage programs but something far more dangerous, knowledge. The files contained 10,000 years of human military history. Every battle, every strategy, every lesson learned in blood and sacrifice. From ancient warriors with bronze swords to modern space fighters, humanity's long journey of warfare was laid bare. When the upload finished, Jaemin left a simple message in the system. Study this. Learn what 10 millennia of warfare teaches a species. We didn't choose to be killers. You made us prove it. By morning, every Vexen officer in the academy would understand exactly what they were fighting. Not primitive creatures, but the most experienced warriors the galaxy had ever produced. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Yijin Song worked from a hidden base in the asteroid belt, waging a war of minds instead of weapons. Her name meant wise and precious, and her wisdom told her that the greatest victories came not from destroying enemies, but from changing their hearts. Yijin was a master of psychological warfare, and she had spent months studying Vexen culture, learning how they thought, what they valued, what they feared. Now she used that knowledge to broadcast messages across their communication networks. Her first transmission showed images of human cities, not military bases or weapons factories, but parks where children played, concert halls where music filled the air, art galleries displaying beautiful paintings. The message was clear. This is what humanity values. The second transmission showed what happened when those precious things were threatened. Battle footage from Earth's defense, human pilots sacrificing their lives to protect their families, the terrible efficiency of warriors who had nothing left to lose. We are not monsters, Yijin's voice said gently over the images. We are people who love peace, art, and life. But when you threaten what we love, you discover what thousands of years of warfare have taught us. The broadcasts spread through Vexen space faster than their government could stop them. Ordinary citizens saw humans not as alien invaders, but as people very much like themselves, people who wanted to live in peace but would fight fiercely when attacked. On the Vexen homeworld, protests began in the capital cities. Citizens demanded to know why their leaders had started a war with such a dangerous species. Parents asked why their children were being sent to fight creatures who had turned warfare into an art form. Major Sujin Park completed her mission flawlessly. The supply depot at Kepler 442 disappeared in a series of precise explosions, taking with it enough fuel and ammunition to supply 50 ships for a year. She was already jumping to hyperspace before the first emergency signals reached the nearest Vexen base. Across the galaxy, similar strikes continued. Human ships hit military targets with devastating precision while carefully avoiding any harm to civilians. Each attack sent the same message: we can reach you anywhere, anytime, but we choose our targets carefully. The Vexen Empire, which had conquered 12 star systems through brute force, suddenly found itself fighting an enemy that was smarter, faster, and more experienced than anything they had ever faced. Their leaders began to realize a terrible truth: they had started a war with a species that had never stopped preparing for war since the day they first looked at the stars. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was very, very good at hunting. The message arrived on Earth during the quiet hours of dawn, transmitted across 20 light-years of space. It was not the angry demand for surrender that many expected, but something very different. The voice belonged to Overlord Vex himself, though it carried none of the pride and arrogance that had started this war. Earth Command, we request negotiations for cessation of hostilities. In the communication center of Earth Defense Command, officers looked at each other in surprise. The mighty Vexen Empire, which had conquered 12 star systems, was asking for peace talks. The hunt that began months ago had reduced their military strength by 60%, and they could no longer fight. Admiral Chin, commander of Earth's forces, listened to the message 3 times before responding. Tell them we accept. Send Ambassador Choi to Geneva. It's time to end this war. Ambassador Unsu Choi stood in the Great Hall of the Geneva Assembly, surrounded by delegates from dozens of nations. Her name meant kindness and excellence, and she would need both qualities for the difficult work ahead. The treaty documents lay spread across the table, written in both human languages and alien script. The Vexen delegation sat across from her, their four-eyed faces showing exhaustion and defeat. Their leader, Admiral Krell, had replaced the dead Overlord Vex as the Empire's spokesman. His voice was quiet as he spoke. We understand now, Krell said slowly. We thought you were primitive creatures easy to conquer. We were wrong about everything. Unsu nodded with respect. War teaches hard lessons to everyone. But now we can learn better ones together. She lifted the treaty documents, reading the terms aloud for all to hear. The Solvex Accords include immediate ceasefire, trade agreements for mutual benefit, shared technology development, cultural exchange programs, and mutual defense pacts. We are stronger together than apart. The signing ceremony was broadcast across both civilizations. Former enemies watched as human and Vexen leaders put their names to documents that would reshape the galaxy. Children who had hidden in shelters during the war now saw their leaders shaking hands and planning a peaceful future. 6 months after the treaty was signed, Captain Do-hyun Kim stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Harmony. He was the same officer who had delivered humanity's first warning to the Vexen fleet, but now everything had changed. His ship was a marvel of combined human and alien technology, faster and more advanced than anything either species could build alone. Beside him stood Commander Tex, a former Vexen officer who had requested transfer to human command after watching their tactical brilliance during the war. His alien features had seemed frightening once, but now he was simply another member of the crew. "New system ahead, Captain," Tex reported in his heavily accented standard Galactic. His pronunciation was getting better every day. Long-range scans show signs of primitive civilization on the third planet. Do-hyun studied the sensor readings carefully. Radio signals, basic rocket technology, nuclear weapons, a young species just beginning to reach for the stars. It reminded him of humanity's own early days, full of promise and danger. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "All frequencies, all languages we can manage." The transmission went out across space, carried by both human and Vexen communication systems working in perfect harmony. Do-hyun's voice was calm and friendly, but carried an unmistakable note of strength. "This is the vessel Harmony, representing the Sol-Vex Alliance. We come in peace and offer friendship. However, we extend one warning: both our peoples are deadly when threatened. Approach with peaceful intentions only." Throughout the galaxy, other alien civilizations monitored the transmission and took careful notes. The humans of Earth had done something unprecedented. They had not conquered the mighty Vexen Empire, but transformed it into something greater. Their alliance ships now explored together, their crews working side by side, their combined knowledge advancing both civilizations. The Zephyrian Collective, watching from their distant systems, updated their threat assessments. The crystalline hives adjusted their expansion plans. The machine intelligence networks recalculated their diplomatic protocols. Everyone understood that a new power had emerged in the galaxy, one that preferred cooperation to conquest but could fight with terrible efficiency when necessary. On Earth, General Eugene Nam sat in her office reviewing the final reports from the war. Her name meant precious truth, and the truth she had discovered was both simple and profound. Stacks of battle analyses covered her desk, but the most important lesson couldn't be found in tactical manuals or weapon specifications. "Humanity's greatest weapon," she wrote in her final report, "was never our technology or our tactics. It was our ability to turn enemies into allies, to transform war into peace, to find strength not in conquest but in cooperation." She looked out her window at the Sol skyline, where human and Vexen engineers worked together on new construction projects. Former enemy soldiers now served in joint patrol units, protecting trade routes and exploring dangerous regions of space. Children from both species attended the same schools, learning each other's languages and cultures. The war had taught the galaxy an important lesson about humanity. Yes, they were deadly when threatened, deadly serious about protecting what they loved, deadly efficient when forced to fight, and deadly committed to building something better from the ashes of conflict. But their greatest strength was not their ability to destroy, but their ability to create. They had taken their greatest enemy and made them into their greatest ally. Together, humans and Vexens were reaching toward a future that neither could achieve alone. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth's children again. But more importantly, they had learned that humanity's deadliest weapon was hope, the hope that even the worst enemies could become the best friends, and that war could become the foundation for lasting peace.